Hey guys, Mr. George Remus here, back with another build video. This time we're taking a look at Kyle. He's a non-attribute kind of heavy hitter, decent boss damage at the end of these dungeons, and really good heavy ad clear. And he's a lot of fun, and I think he's kind of a fan favorite. Before we get into the mods themselves and the rest of the build, I kind of want to demonstrate what we're shooting for here. If you don't know how Kyle works, his first ability, his dash, does some decent AoE damage. You can hold the skill button to go a little further, which is actually really good to give you more time in between cooldowns. Doesn't affect damage, but does damage everybody that he passes to, and you get some of his special resource called magnetic force. So this is like the primary way that we're going to be building that. That's really important. The other thing this does is this gives you 150% multiplier on your defense, and we'll get into that, why that's important. As for what this looks like in the field, is if you hit an enemy with your one, you'll see your purple bar going up. That's your magnetic force. The more you use it, the more hits you get, the more magnetic force you get. Alright, for this next part, I kind of want to give you guys a demonstration of what this looks like. Build up your magnetic force, activate your third ability, and you'll notice you no longer take damage. Instead, your magnetic force takes the brunt of it. But you can build it back up at the same time, essentially making you invincible while your 3 is active. Why this is important? Hang on, let me refresh it. Because when you use your 4th skill, you do get some damage reduction, but you're a bit of a sitting duck. So what that's going to look like is you're going to use your 3, and then you're going to use your 4 while in the air. That way you're invincible while using this barrage on enemies. Alright, looking at the mods, the first thing we're going to talk about is your Transcendent mod. Superconductive Bombing Mark II. This changes Kyle's 4 ability. Instead of that one burst, he jumps up in the air and fires a rain of bombs down from the sky while in a stationary position, giving you some damage reduction while you do so. Very important you combine your 3 with this so you don't take a large amount of damage while you're a sitting duck. We are going to run some pretty standard cooldown stuff because it's Kyle, and his abilities that you're going to be spamming have kind of an inconvenient amount of cooldown even at the max stacks. So you're going to want to focus on tech, focus on non-attribute, and then since he is not a crit descendant, you are also going to want non-attribute amplification. You're going to want nimble fingers and MP conversion to go with that. All right, for the last little bit, we're going to put skill expansion on for some range. We're going to put increased shield for some shield, a little bit more survivability and magnetic force with that. For some damage, we're going to put shield charge. If you don't know how this works, is you get some skill power based off of your max defense, and you want to shoot for like 195,000 to get the most out of this. We're definitely going to achieve that. And then we're going to run 2 defense mods, spear and shield, because it gives us defense and some skill power, and then increased defense. Now for trigger mods, you actually get 2 really good options, and we're basing them around our 1 ability. You get battering ram. This will reduce your enemy's defense and their resistances to different attributes based off of your defense, and it does some continuous damage. It's not super active, but this is really nice against bosses, like just to hit them with real quick before using your 4. And if you want a little bit more ad clear support, Steel Vanguard also works well with this with your 1. I prefer battering ram just to help out with the boss at the end, but either of those, it's up to you. Both are very good options. Playing with both, it was kind of like 50-50 which one I preferred, and I kind of see myself swapping them both in and out over time. If you're not sure what to swap out for ancestor mods, because this build is without one, I just can't seem to get a perfect roll for this. If you get a high enough defense stat where you can maintain that 195,000 defense, you can swap out spear and shield or increase defense depending on like how great it is of a defense roll. I think this is the one that you're going to have to sacrifice, and then hopefully you can get some tech ratio or non-attribute ratio to go with this. That is what I would shoot for this build, and this is the mod I would sacrifice for that. Now let's look at the tools that we're going to be running for your reactor, because it's Kyle and we're kind of focused on his tech side over his dimension. You're going to want a non-attribute tech reactor with tech skill power boost ratio and skill cooldown. You can, if you get a high enough ancestor mod with skill cooldown. You can actually swap this out if you want. Not my priority, but you can swap that out for non-attribute ratio to get a little bit more damage out of this. All right, for your component sets, we actually have 2 options. Now, my stats are a little wrong because I got lazy with farming, but I'll point out what does and does not matter. So on your sets, and this is regardless if you do Bravery or Enlightened Mage, you do want your max shield and defense on your cores all the way down. The MP does not matter, so I have MP recovery out of combat. That does not matter. The max HP is also nice, but not really super important because we're not running overwhelming shield. So with this, you really just need one with some decent stats on there, even if you want to use it on somebody else. For your sensor, you want shield recovery out of combat. The other stat does not matter. For your memory, I have defense. You really want defense and shield recovery in combat. I was just struggling to get that roll and gave up after a couple hours. And then for your processor, this one is kind of important here. You want the shield recovery modifier and the max shield increase with this. If you run the Bravery set instead, which is a very good option for Kyle. It's a very close second for me, and I think some other people will prefer Bravery. This gives you random cooldown reduction as you get kills. It takes a second off the time, really helps with your cooldowns on your 1, because this build does struggle with that because you'll burn through it. You want the same exact rolls, the same exact setup, just with Bravery instead of Enlightened Mage. I just prefer the damage increase of Enlightened Mage. For your arcade board, I did play with this a lot because I couldn't find a setup that I was completely happy with, but I do think it's as good as it's going to get. You want to go to the right, get as much of this skill power as possible. We do not care about this HP recovery, but you do want these defense rolls, and you do want this increased shield. Following this path up, you're going to grab the skill power, you're going to get the skill cooldown. This you could potentially move away from if you get some cooldown on an ancestor mod that you fit in somewhere. And then you're going to come up here to this mutant cell. We went with Arche Chain Catalyst. When you hit somebody with a skill, it reduces their non-attribute skill power based off of your non-attribute skill power boost. So this just enables you to do a little bit more damage. It fits well with the build. You're honestly stacking a lot of different things with this build, and it all melds together very nicely. For your inversion reinforcement, this is season 3, episode 2 right now that we're sitting in. So looking at it from that perspective, this is the current inversion reinforcement. You want to use Arche circulation tactic. This gives you some temporary cooldown boost. This will top us off to that 90%. You could potentially swap this out for adrenaline surge, which is movement speed. I do like this one quite a bit. But even though this isn't up the whole time, I do prefer those moments where the skill cooldown is topped off. Survival, we went with shield particle reconfiguration. This gives you some more defense and some more max shield. These both work super well with Kyle. It works wonders with the build. I wouldn't really swap this out for anything right now. And then for this 4th spot, we went with shield regeneration algorithm. This is when your shield's below 30%. You recover max shield for about 4 seconds. It does have like a 30% cooldown or a 30-second cooldown. We don't really care about the rest of the effect. We're only using it for the top half, but this also does work well with Harris. Some thoughts I think you guys should be aware of when using this build. If you find that you're burning through your 1 stacks, even though you have 5 of them, if you press and hold it, it slows you down and you don't feel like you burn through it quite as fast. I do think it's very important and worth it rather than just spamming it as fast as possible. You can also spam your 3 ability, which is what is making you invincible, but technically if the longer you leave it up, the more damage the explosion does. I don't think it's significant enough to like prioritize that, but that does work that way and it does fit well with the build. If you do like this build and you want to see more, consider liking the video, commenting, and subscribing to the channel to help support growth. I do have some more builds coming. I'm trying to find a way to get more of these videos out there. I do have some more Descendants ready to go to make build videos for. They just take a little bit of time, but I'll get them out. If you want to see something in particular, feel free to comment below and I will get to it as fast as possible. But I do appreciate everybody's time and I hope you have a good start to 2026 and hope to see you in the next one.